Welcome back to the Kia Hyundai channel. My name is Gabby, and today we have two generations of compact sedans side by side. And boy, what a difference a year has made on them. I will say the Kia Forte is a fabulous car. I had one myself, and to this day, I still regret selling it. The K4 was brought in not necessarily to replace it, but more so to change the way Kia was working forward, especially for their compact cars. The Forte did a great job at being cost-effective, sporty, and relatively easy to drive. But the K4 leads the way with tech, a larger compact vehicle, and, well, a bold new look. Today's video, we're going to compare both models. I might cry a little bit, and we're doing this live. So that means no script, no nothing, just me, you, the cars, and hopefully a good internet connection. I will say between two top models we have here today, there's a $3,300 MSRP price difference between the two. The last year for the Kia Forte was 2024, and that was priced at $31,495 Canadian, while the Kia K4 was introduced for the 2025 model year, being priced at $34,795 for its GT Line Turbo Limited trim. Yeah, the naming platform got weird too. Anyway, let's get started looking at the front end of both cars, then we'll pop the hood, talk about wheels, talk about the body, finish off with the back end, and then hop inside and talk tech differences. Because this is a live stream, feel free to leave any questions or comments in the live chat below so we can make a discussion out of this. I want to hear what you guys think and which you prefer. We'll do the Forte first because there is something special about the front end of this vehicle that I much prefer over the Kia K4. Style-wise, it definitely takes on a little bit more of a traditional styling approach, although the Kia Forte is considered a compact or more so entry-level vehicle. The GT Limited, I should say, gives you the option for a car that fits all those boxes. You can drive it to work and not pay a ton of gas every day, but it also looks good and it is responsive. It's actually fun to drive. You have bold, bright LED headlamps. If you look a little closer, you'll notice some more intricate design. We got a three-dimensional, almost pyramid-like gunmetal finish within the headlamp unit. For styling, they didn't go with too much gloss black. Instead, they did some metal accents too. Now, working your way into the grille, you'll notice here's where we find some gloss black touches with a little bit of red too, so kind of hidden. It's not done in a way where it feels tacky or overdone. It's subtle, and with a dark gray paint color like this, I think it suits it really nice. There's dedicated GT badging too for the Turbo Line models or turbocharged models, because there was also a GT line, that's what I had, which didn't have the turbocharged powertrain. Lower on in the front bumper, you'll notice that red continues, with a little bit more gloss black, and then we have a fairly aggressive lower grille pattern. As far as technology goes, you had smart cruise control with stop-and-go technology, as well as highway driving assist available on the turbocharged model of the Kia Forte in its later generations. That was essentially a smart cruise control, but amplified to know the speed limit of the highway, if there's any bends in the road, to keep you centered in your lane, but also always at a safe distance from the car ahead of you. Now, there's one thing, like I said earlier, that I really love about the Forte's front-end styling, and that's the fog lamps, which are actually placed lower on in the vehicle's front end. So they're completely separate from the main headlamp unit. When we go to the K4, you'll see how they made that different, and I don't know if I'm necessarily a fan of it. So I do really like these separate fog lamps for sure. All right, you guys, if you're curious about the exact paint code, this is Gravity Gray, one of the best colors available for the Kia Forte in my opinion. And if Ryan is on right now moderating, he will agree because he has one. And again, this is the very top model available for the Kia Forte. I guess that was available for the Kia Forte, no longer. So GT Limited is what it's called here in Canada. I know in the States you might use a different nameplate. For the K4, again, we're comparing top model to top model. So this is the GT Line Turbo Limited. So they got rid of just GT Limited and integrated Line into there. I don't know what that means for the future. Maybe we will one day get a more high-performance version of the K4 that uses maybe a 2-liter turbo, 2.5-liter turbo. I don't know. They haven't told me. Believe me, if they tell me, I will let you guys know too. But for now, here's what we get. So much larger headlamp unit, and instead of all bright white LEDs, we'll have an amber daytime running light with both horizontal and vertical elements. This definitely widens the front end of this vehicle, and you'll notice it doesn't just make it look wider. This is physically larger. It's longer, it's wider, and you got more rear leg room. Headlamps, again, full LEDs, and the fog lamps are actually integrated into the unit itself, so nothing is separate. I'll turn on the full headlamp system so you can see what I'm talking about. Adam, if you want to stay right there and hone in on one of the headlights. So we get the car in electric mode or accessory mode. That is our high beams being on. This is our regular full running lights. These are our fog lamps off, and these are our fog lamps on. So pretty cool the way they integrated the fogs into the main unit itself. I just think I prefer the look of the separate ones. Let me know what you guys think. We'll talk powertrain next, and since we're over here with the K4, might as well pop this hood first. So both vehicles will utilize a 1.6-liter turbocharged gasoline direct injection engine. That is only available on one trim level for the regular Forte and 2 trim levels for the Kia K4. So both GT lines will use this 1.6-liter turbo. On the K4, it produces 190 horsepower with 195 pound-feet of torque. So comfortable power, definitely an upgrade from the 2-liter naturally aspirated engine that is also an option for the K4. And it's not fuel hungry. It's rated about 8 liters per 100 kilometers combined, or 9.2 liters per 100 kilometers in the city. Again, not overly fuel hungry. It can really vary depending on how you drive. If you're a little lighter on the throttle, you can see those numbers certainly do better. But like most cars, it's going to shine primarily on the highway. Speaking of the highway and just driving in general, the transmission on this vehicle is an 8-speed regular automatic. So that is a torque converter automatic, no CVT, no IVT, and no dual clutch, only an automatic. So that'll give you a smoother driving experience. Might not feel as responsive or as quick as this Forte over here, spoiler alert, but smooth, traditional, and extremely, extremely comfortable. Very nice. One thing I didn't show you yet, but I'll point out now before we close the hood, is this camera right over here. So the Forte did not have this technology available yet, but this is one of the 3 additional cameras on the exterior of this car, making up a full 360-degree view. So we get a blind view monitor, but also a surround view monitor that is very helpful when parking your car in, let's say, parallel parking situations, garages. It just gives you an extra visual. On top of that, you also have integrated parking sensors. So these circular ultrasonic sensors you'll find on your front bumper, but also the rear of the vehicle, located here as well, and of course repeated on the opposite side. Once you approach something like a car ahead of you or a wall, it'll start beeping, and that will also trigger the camera to show on your main head screen unit. A few other things in terms of design and detail. We still have a lot of gloss black elements, so on the lower portion of the front end, and then your front lip will be almost a gunmetal finish, so a dark, dark metal. So you can see there are no red accents on the K4 GT lines, so they've gone away with that. A bit less sporty in my opinion, and more of a modern or upscale approach to styling. They don't want it to kind of stand out too much. The front end or upper grille has that, again, blue gloss black finish with some horizontal slats, widening the front end's look. And then we have a slight touch of lighter, almost satin chrome too. So that flows in nicely with the headlamp design. Alrighty, so front end for front end, what are you guys thinking? Do you have a preference so far? If you do, let me know in the comments. We're gonna pop the hood on the Forte next and talk about the powertrain and performance for that particular vehicle. All right, so we know the displacement of the powertrains are the same between 2 models, but this one is going to be more fun to drive. The reason for that comes down to the transmission, but I'm gonna give you the specs of the engine first. So the Forte GT will have a 1.6-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder using gasoline direct injection, just the same as the K4, except it is tied to a 7-speed dry type dual clutch. Now, dual clutch is essentially a type of automated manual transmission. So it's automated in the sense that you put your car in drive and go, and you don't have an extra clutch pedal, you don't have to work through the gears with your lever, but it's manual in the sense that it still has 2 clutches. Now, where those clutches are has nothing to do with your feet and the way you're going to move them. You'll still only have to hit the gas and the brake. But one clutch is going to handle your odd gears, so gear 1, gear 3, gear 5, gear 7, how to do the math there. And your secondary clutch will handle your even gears, gear 2, gear 4, and gear 6. When gear 1 is in motion, gear 2 is locked and loaded and ready to go. It'll shift lightning quick. This gives this vehicle slightly more efficiency. So it's rated at about 7.6 liters per 100 kilometers on the highway, as opposed to the Forte's, what was it, 9.2. So slightly better fuel efficiency-wise, which is great to see. It also means it is a ton more fun to drive. It's going to feel a little bit more engaging, a little bit more direct, and sometimes a little bit more lurchy. Now, lurchy is a complaint we often hear from people who do not care about the spirited driving or the performance driving. Basically, with dual clutch transmissions, when you're in between a gear, you can kind of feel it pull a little bit or lurch a little bit. If you're someone who coasts a lot because you're sitting in stop and go traffic, you will certainly feel this, and it won't feel as smooth as a regular automatic car. That is one of the downsides, or I guess drawbacks, of a dual clutch, but if it's something you love, it's worth getting every single time. And if anyone in the comments is watching with a dual clutch in their car, they like performance driving, they like a more spirited feel, they'll probably agree with me. All right, so we know the performance differences between the two. Let's take a look at the wheels. So our wheels are the same size. We have an 18-inch alloy between the two cars. We'll start off with the Forte. You'll notice that we have a dark, almost gunmetal-like shade for the insert, and then the front end portion will be machine finished. And we have a sporty accent with the red center cap. Now on the Kia K4, everything is gloss black. Looks good, definitely modern. A lot of people like an all-black wheel. This is what they get. Both cars will offer larger front disc brakes. They're ventilated disc brakes, and you'll have solid disc brakes in the very rear. Both cars will also have a multi-link rear suspension that have been sport-tuned to give you a bit of a, lost for words, a little bit more of a direct handling feel. That also means they're going to handle a little stiffer than your average Kia K4 or Kia Forte, but you won't feel too much of a difference. It's not going to be as hardcore as something like the Hyundai Elantra N, where you might have a bad back after driving for a couple hours. These cars are still both very forgiving, but extremely capable. Now, with that being said, if you are opting for the Kia K4, again, you will have that smoothness of the transmission, but there's also going to be a lot more road noise, vibration, harshness technology. So what that means is it doesn't add noise, vibration, or harshness. It actually takes away. So there's been quite a bit more sound deadening and ride quality put into this vehicle to give a more comfortable driving feel and a quieter driving feel. The Forte, it can be a little bit noisy, but if you got your music up and you just don't care, you want to hear your car, it may not necessarily be a problem. Alrighty, let's take a look at the mirrors now. So both cars will come with a gloss black mirror. You do get a bit more metal accent on the K4, and then a turn signal indicator, with the inclusion of a blind view camera. Now, anytime you go to indicate a lane change on the K4, what this feature does is show you what's happening in your blind spot, and I will show you guys before we end off today's video. On the Forte, it's just a traditional mirror, so gloss black on the top, turn signal indicator, and blind spot detection. Neither of these cars have power folding mirrors, so if you'd like to fold them, you'd have to do so manually, but they are electronically controlled and heated. The door handles for both cars. You'll have proximity entry, with the Forte having a button style, meaning that as long as the key is on you, you'll simply press the button and it'll unlock or lock, depending on what was situated before. And then the K4 has our sensor style. So you just reach for the handle, and again, as long as the key is on you, it'll unlock and then lock for you. The K4 also has the advancement of digital key entry, so you can pair your phone to your car and unlock your vehicle from your phone, the same way you Apple Pay or Google Pay instead of using your credit card. So it's all done by near field communication, which is pretty cool. If you are tech savvy, you might love it, but you don't have to use it if you don't want to. The trim lines of both of these cars will have a black finish, with the regular black plastic being on the Forte. You can see it on your pillars and your belt line. And the K4 will instead have gloss black for the pillars and satin chrome for the belt line. The rear portion of the vehicles will feel very, very different, and I might have to take the camera from Adam to really highlight what I'm talking about here. The Forte definitely has the typical sedan-like body, so of course it slopes in the rear, but it's not too harsh. You do get this nice black lip spoiler along your trunk lid, expanding all the way across the back end, and nice LED tail lamps with almost, I like to call it a checkered flag-like design. Can't hit the brakes and film right here, but when they are illuminated, it's a bit more prominent. On the right-hand side or passenger side, you'll have your GT badging, your reverse lamps, as well as your signals, and then a red accent line across the back end. I love the way the accent line kind of separates the diffuser. I think it looks beautiful, and you also have a dual tip exhaust. Beautiful. This is a well done diffuser in my opinion. I think this car, it's very timeless. It's always been a good looking car. To this day, every time I see a clean Forte on the road, GT I should say, I stop and I smile a little bit and I regret my life choices, but for fuel tank, both cars will have a 47-liter tank with regular unleaded fuel being what's necessary. So you do not have to put premium or mid-grade into either car. The K4 definitely has a bit more of a modern approach to its rear end styling, although I will say it is definitely a bit more subtle. It's not going to feel as sporty. Very sharp lines on the headlamps, just like the front end, or sorry, tail lamps, just like our front end headlamps. So we got a vertical, but we also got that sharp horizontal that extends into a gloss black section and comes right back on the other side. Kia emblem is a brushed aluminum, and then the diffuser is all show. It doesn't really house your exhaust the way the Fortes did. So gloss black, little bit of gunmetal right over there. Got your parking sensors all throughout. There's 4 of them on the back end. But the exhaust is downward facing and not really noticeable at all from the back of the car. Womp womp. Reverse lights are right over there, LEDs. And you do have your turn signal indicators being mounted a bit higher on the K4. Now, as far as the body of the K4 goes, it's definitely more fastback-like in its style. So while the vehicle is longer, it is wider, and it does give you more rear legroom, you do lose a tiny bit of cargo space in the rear. Of course, with sedans, you'll never have as much space as an SUV, but it does kind of make the opening a little bit smaller than the Fortes. I'll show you guys in a second. I do like the mix of materials along your windows and trim lines. I think the satin chrome with the gloss black definitely makes the look more premium in the way it flows into the mirror too, as well as the side skirts. Looks very nice. You'll also notice the gloss black wraps around, so it goes to your wheel arches, the side skirts, and then comes right back up to the front end, connecting with your front lip and your bumper. The Forte, again, they weren't necessarily going for premium with it. They more so were leaning towards sporty compact, so you'll notice a bit more meh materials like the matte black, although I will say the black plastic does hold up better in terms of scratches and just general life. All right, Adam will take our camera back again and we'll take a look inside, starting off with the Forte. Now this won't be a full in-depth car review, but if you do want to take a closer look at what the last generation Forte looked like, don't worry, we've done tons of videos on our channel. Adam, if you'd like to hop on over to the driver's side door and open it up, I'll talk about it from here. We are working with a little bit less space than usual, seeing as we have a full house in our bay. But on the inside, you can tell it is dark, it is moody, and it is sporty. The sport bucket seats have a perforated finish in the center. They're going to be heated and ventilated with a red contrast. So there is seat debossing for your GT badge, as well as stitching heading along down the bolster. The bolster doesn't feel overly stiff, but it definitely helps you hold yourself into the seat a little bit more. The steering wheel is very well done with a leather finish and some red accent stitching with the GT badge on the bottom. Of course, as far as media and communications go, you of course have your Bluetooth, your Apple CarPlay, your Android Auto, but I will say the Apple CarPlay and Android Auto is wired on this vehicle. The head unit does have in-house navigation. So built into the car, you can use Kia's branded nav. You have things like quiet mode, valet mode, and of course Sirius XM radio. The sound system in this vehicle is a Harman Kardon premium sound, and there is a slight touch of ambient lighting worked into the door. Now, it is not very noticeable at all. Matter of fact, I don't even think it's on, but it'll just illuminate these little filaments on this panel of the door. It doesn't underglow in your front dash panels or anything like that. It's very, very subtle. Your headliner is all black on the Forte GT. You get a power sunroof, which if you just open the cover, definitely brightens up the cabin a bit. And it's a very nice layout. I really do love the Forte. It feels very traditional though, in anticipation to what we're gonna see on the K4, which feels very modern, very new, and very techy. Gonna grab the camera from Adam again, just to show you guys our center. So where our gear shift is located, it's a lever style with red contrast stitching. You got your heated and ventilated seat controls here, heated steering wheel, and your drive mode select. There's also great functions like a wireless phone charger, USB for charging, USB for connectivity, everything. Electronic parking brake, cup holders, and then your rear seats on this vehicle are heated. The heated controls are just located on the door card right next to your window controls. One major thing that the Forte's got is a sunglass holder. This was actually one of our last cars to feature a sunglass holder. Now I think we only have the Telluride, and even the Telluride, we don't really have any of them left yet. And it's getting redesigned next year, so only time will tell if it gets redesigned with a sunglass holder. All right, now for the interior of the K4. I'm gonna have Adam follow me down this way. I'm actually gonna sit in the driver's seat this time, probably. Adam, come on through. Again, we're working with very little space. Before I hop in, pan of the seats, please. We've got a two-tone finish, so lots of white elements. Now, I'm very happy that they didn't put the white in the two high-touch areas. It's just on the piping or sides of the seat and the headrest. As far as your steering wheel goes, the white is located on your airbag and on the insert of the upper portion of the steering wheel. So where you would really mostly put your hands is still dark gray or black. Unless you gangsta lean when you drive. Anyway, for your dark card, here's where all of your comfort controls are, which is a little different. So your heated and ventilated seats are right up here. You got your heated steering wheel too, and then memory seats. Memory seats are something that we didn't see in the last generation of the Forte, but it makes sense to include on this vehicle, seeing as it's going for more of a luxurious compact sedan. Your seat controls are powered, just like the Fortes, with the same exact controls. So we got our height, our backrest, and our lumbar supports. Seats themselves definitely feel a little bit more premium on this car as opposed to sporty, so the bolstering isn't as hardcore as the Fortes were, and there's no real red accents or in-your-face sporty styling elements, just like the outside of this car. It doesn't really have much badging indicating it's a performance trim level, which makes sense that the interior would follow suit. The interior will also feature a Harman Kardon sound system with more speakers. We have 8 speakers on the K4. And then we definitely have a lot more ambient lighting on this vehicle too. So you'll see it on the door card, but it also follows suit on the dash too. You can set this color to whatever your preference is. I'll wake up the screen so you guys can see the technology differences. We have a full 12.3-inch digital gauge cluster. This always shows you your digital speed as well as your digital tachometer once the vehicle on display goes away. There we go. And then the center screen lets you adjust what you'd like to view, so you can see your tire pressure, your trip, your navigation, whatever you'd like. Media controls and driving controls are about the same. So we have media on the left-hand side where it was flipped on the Forte. Sorry, driver assistance on the left-hand side where on the Forte it was flipped, and then media on the right-hand side. On this vehicle, just like the Forte, we do have highway driving assist, except we now have highway driving assist level 2. And if you are confused so far, let me just quickly explain it. So everything that it did on the Forte, it does on this car, except it's a little bit more advanced in its lane reading and also how it kind of corrects itself. So if someone were to butt in front of you while you're in stop and go traffic, it adjusts a little bit quicker and it kind of accounts for that. It can also do its own automated lane changes. So all I have to do is indicate my signal, and then the car will change lanes as long as it's safe to do so. So a bit more advanced technology. We still have forward collision avoidance, blind spot detection, rear cross traffic collision avoidance assist. There's a ton that this vehicle just improves upon. But highway driving assist level 2 is the one major safety enhancement that we did not have available on the Forte. Alrighty, I'm going to show you guys the full 360 camera because I know you're probably curious about that. So right now it's displaying the front camera. You can see Adam the way I see him there. And there's also a top-down view. It looks a little funky because my door is open, but if it was closed, it's a pretty good demonstration of what's happening around me. You also have this view that you can double check your parking, make sure you did a good job. And that blind spot camera I was mentioning earlier is only active when the vehicle is running. I'll just turn on our engine, press left, and we can see whatever is in my left blind spot, which happens to be the Forte. Now right blind spot, and there we go. So again, like I mentioned earlier, just more of an enhancement in the technology department. Your main screen is also going to house 12.3 inches of real estate, in-house navigation, and wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. We still have some physical controls for your media as well as your temperature controls, and then there is a separate climate screen. Your gear shift is still a lever style. You got your parking sensor button here, your push to start ignition, and then a more wide area for your cup holders. The passenger seat is still manual on the top trim level of the K4. The seats will be debossed with GT line badging, not just GT. And then your rear seats are going to be heated just like the Fortes. One major difference with the rear seats though, there is going to be quite a bit more space on the K4, just seeing as it is a larger vehicle. There are air vents back here as well as USB-Cs and a ton of space. Very nice. All right, you guys, this video is already at 25 minutes long, which is longer than what I expected, but I really did want to talk about the Forte quite a bit because I don't know, I'm attached to it. I really did love that car. I really do love that car still. I want to see what you guys have to say, so if you haven't said anything already in the live chat, please do. And if you are curious about our 2 p.m. live stream that we usually do, we will still be doing that. It might just have to start a little bit later. Someone said, new cars just have screens everywhere. The windscreen will probably be a screen soon. Yeah, windshield, that's just a projected image of what the vehicle thinks is in front. So yeah, screens are definitely something we're seeing more and more of on cars. However, I will say I'm very glad Kia and Hyundai have not just done a major iPad in the middle of their vehicles with every control integrated into it. As you've seen on both of these cars, you have a screen that's got your navigation, it's got your CarPlay, it's got your backup cameras. But below it, we still have buttons, we still have dials, we still have controls for things like our AC and, you know, jumping to our setup menu. So in the way, I think they've done a good job with it. There's nothing I hate more than getting a vehicle traded in at our dealership, and let's say it was one of those manufacturers that had a giant screen in the middle. As vehicles age, their screens start to slow down, and if everything you need to change is all placed in one screen, it's going to be pretty annoying every time you have to go adjust your mirrors or turn on your heated seat or do anything like that. It is great that those standard functions are still buttons, still dials. I don't care if my Bluetooth connection takes a little bit longer, but let me turn on my heated seat the second I get into the car, you know? Anyway, let's see what else you guys have to say about either car. TRD RAV4 said Mercedes is even worse. For screens or for what? I will say some of the lead offenders for the giant iPad screen in the middle of the cars. Subaru's doing it now. Ram's been doing it in their trucks and most of their cars for a while. Those are the ones that slow down real bad. Obviously, there's Tesla. Tesla, you even change the gears on the screen. So imagine when that screen starts to slow down, you got to put your car in reverse. You're in a rush. Interesting choice over there. What else? There's a couple. Polestar does it. I think Volvo does it. Just giant major screens. How does the starting MSRP of the base K4 trim compare to the final model year of the Forte? And does the price difference justify the K4's new standard features? So the K4 base MSRP is $23,995 Canadian. That is for the LX model, which I will say, LX Forte, when that was around, versus LX K4, you get a whole lot more in the Kia K4, quite a bit more. Now, for these two specific vehicles, there's a $3,300 price difference between the two. I do think that what you get in the K4, I do think it justifies that price difference, in my opinion. But with that being said, if you are someone who really just wants a sporty drive, you like the flashier look of the red accents, the red interior, you want the dual clutch transmission, then get the Forte. If you can find a good one used, that's the only thing. It would have to be used at this point. There's no more new ones. Get the Forte. But if you want something brand new, you love the tech, you love the just more comfortable interior, more luxurious interior, the Forte or the K4 is a great, great buy. Seriously, it's fantastic. All right. Ew. Interesting. Weird comments, you guys. Now, that's about it for today's video, you guys. Thank you so much for watching. We hope to see you again on our later live stream, which will be simply on the Kia K4. So if you want to know more about that vehicle, more in depth, check that video out. In the meantime, we will see you next time. Bye-bye.